I think this is going to be our most redundant episode ever, because is there really anyone in the world who hasn't watched this fucking movie yet? Because we're talking movies, we're talking Avatar, The Way of Water, starring Sam Worthington, Zoe Saldana, and Sigourney Weaver. Screenplay by Amanda Silver, Rick Jaffa, and James Cameron, who always directed. Kris, why so blue?
The Way of Water connects all things before your birth and after your death. Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of How'd You Like That Movie? And just to correct Scott, when he says, you know, is there anybody who hasn't seen it? Well, considering it's made $2 billion and there's 8.5 billion people, there's a whole lot of people that still need to see it. That's right. We're talking about Avatar 2, The Way of Water. Take us away, Scott.
As if he just danced. Okay. Do you remember that Wesley Snipes movie, Passenger 57?
Always bet on black.
Yeah, I think we need to update the quote to always bet on Cameron.
Always bet on blue.
No, Cameron. But before we get
Cameron's
actually
not a color, so that
Shut
doesn't
the
really
fuck
work
up.
in the game of roulette.
Blue's not even shut the fuck up. I'm trying to act all smart. Okay, before we get into the film, I wanted to have a little discussion about the man himself. Like, let's talk Cameron.
Yeah, the
And
man
here's my
from Kapuskasing himself, James Cameron.
We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
Here's my question. I think we discussed this in our first episode ever when we did Aliens, but when
Game
all this
over, man. Game over.
how much fucking drugs did you do before this episode?
I just watched Aliens last night at the movie theater, and I want to talk about it too. So I'm glad that we're talking about James Cameron right away. So I've got Bill Paxton kind of on the mind.
Okay, so here's my thing. When everything's all said and done, where do you think Cameron's gonna fall in the echelon of like greatest directors of all time?
That's an interesting question, because so I was looking at his filmography, and it's funny, like I know a lot of his work. I don't love it. It's not my favorite. What's your favorite James Cameron film? Hold on. What's your favorite James Cameron film?
Well, that we already discussed this. It's T2.
Is it still T2
yeah,
though? Okay.
Still T2. But the man has never directed a flop. Like I thought for sure, like because when I thought up for this question, I'm like, I'm gonna do some research. I thought for sure, I'm like, fucking The Abyss, a movie about water that comes to life, flopped. And then I look and I'm like, nope, made a profit.
What about Piranhas 2?
That one doesn't count though.
Is that because he was like second unit director, or he got put his director at kind of
like right at the very end, and he doesn't even, I don't even think he has an actual credit in that movie.
He just finished the film out.
Yeah. So I don't think it counts as his filmography. And it's a B movie fucking movie, so it probably made money anyways.
True. This is very true. How's he gonna? So he's definitely like in the top, like he's top 10 for sure. Whoever else is in that list. So it's weird because he almost makes like Steven Spielberg size films. You know what I mean? Big spectacle. Like most of his, except for True Eyes. You know, I mean, a lot of them are these big kind of films. You know, Aliens.
How the fuck is True Lies not big?
Well, I mean,
helicopter scene.
Yeah, but I mean, compared to fucking Terminator 2, it's like might as well be a fucking indie. You know what I mean? Like
the Jamie Lee Curtis strip scene. Like, come on, that's a big fucking movie.
He's also always on the cutting edge of technology, right? Like he's always pushing. I don't know. Would you? The only thing is that Spielberg has that I'd say that Cameron doesn't is Spielberg has more dramatic films. Again, obviously Schindler's List, but even even his storytelling and stuff like, you know, Indiana Jones and stuff like that. James Cameron, I think Spielberg, but Spielberg doesn't do his writing, does he? He's just the director. James Cameron's doing his own writing. Ah, fuck, that's a really good question. I don't know. He's definitely, I'd say what, top 5? Top 6?
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, because even like we've been doing this fucking show for 3 years.
It's been 84 years.
And, you know, sometimes this question always comes up, right? And we never bring him up. You're always bringing up QT. You're always bringing up Nolan, Scorsese. Yeah, you could take that guy out. But Scorsese, Spielberg, you're always bringing him up. But yeah, I started thinking, I'm like, this guy, he's had such a consistent work, but could it be because in terms of like, I think The Abyss is the only really dramatic movie, right? Everything else is action, adventure
He's like a theme park
oriented.
director. It's almost like the films are so big they overshadow James Cameron. Like people know Titanic, but I bet you there are people that you'd be like, "Who's the director of Titanic?" They're like, "Oh, I don't know." Like it. There's the films are they actually.
Well, I guess
so
Titanic
large.
would be dramatic too, right?
Yeah, well, it's melodrama, that's for sure.
I want you to draw me like the woman, Kris.
Do you like my boobies? Do you like them? If anybody hasn't seen the Arnold Schwarzenegger cut
Deepfake?
of Titanic, go watch it. Go watch it now, and then get to the chopper.
Jack, I want you to draw me like one of your French girls. Look at my boobies, Jack. Look at them. Come on. So nice.
All right.
I could watch that shit all fucking day, man. Actually, I want to watch the whole movie like that.
Anyways. Okay, go ahead. So let's talk. So you wanted to talk Cameron and Aliens first before we get into this? Because people can just go back to our first episode.
I went to the movies last night and I got to watch Ridley Scott's Alien and Aliens back-to-back double feature at the Picture Show. It was fucking awesome, man. And it was packed. It was this it's a repertory theater here in Kitchener-Waterloo called the Apollo. Thanks for putting it on, by the way, the Apollo. It was so full. Like I was like, I don't think I've actually seen the Apollo that full for a movie before. There was a fucking lineup when I got there. I was like, how busy can it fucking be, right? Like, old ass movie. Nope, line up at the fucking door. I thought I wasn't gonna get to see the goddamn movie. I was like, oh damn it. Aliens. So first off, the original Alien also is still such a fantastic film. Like, go watch that if you haven't seen it recently. If you can see it on a big screen, do so. I love watching Aliens though on a big screen, like all those Bill Paxton quotes. You know what I mean? Like, and Sigourney Weaver is such a bad motherfucker. You know what I mean? And she's a bad motherfucker even in the original Alien. Like, if you go and watch the original Alien, if they would have just listened to Ripley's advice about not bringing the fucking dude with the shit on his face into the thing, everything would have been fine. Just listen to fucking, Sigourney Weaver, which gives you good direction, just do that shit. So, but yeah, and it still holds up. I mean, you can, now I'm kind of like, especially after seeing Avatar 2, you can kind of see the green screen shit and stuff. But because of James Cameron's directing and writing, his action sequences, the acting of like having such a great cast and stuff, you're sort of like, it's fine. Like, yeah, the ship's like looking all fucking weird and stuff behind the 1980s green screen, but you don't care. It's like going back and watching Star Wars and seeing like the models flying around. You're like, it's fine. It's fine.
I was gonna say, was it a green screen in the 80s? Wasn't it just miniature work?
Well, there's some stuff that looks like it's green screen. Like, when Ripley's standing on the platform near the end and the fire is behind her, it looks like the old school Hollywood trick. I guess maybe not a green screen. It's a screen, projecting fire. And then you're like, and for the audience, I'm moving around like I'm on like Star Trek, like where they just pretended because the set didn't move. So I went into this with lowered expectations because as anybody who's listened to this podcast, I don't like Marvel movies. I don't let it flying around. I saw the original Avatar. I thought it was good, but I've only seen it once. I didn't rewatch it. And so I went in with, kind of like, oh, this is going to be a fucking 3-hour. I actually was talking to our producer about how I was like dreading because I had to finally go watch this movie and I was really not looking forward to it. Like I said, it's over 3 hours in. It's like 3 hours and 18 minutes. It's 3 hours and 12 minutes. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna get the D-box seats that move. I'm gonna get the 3D glasses, and I'm just gonna suffer through this movie. So I was fucking wrong.
This is hell.
The most immersive experience I've ever had cinematically. So let's just start there. So I just want your first touch of this film, Scott. What was your takeaway? Because I was just in awe.
Yeah, like I didn't do D box, but I obviously did 3D. And yeah, I don't know if it was just the theater I went to, but like to me in terms of that, it was disappointing a little bit because I remember going like the
Theater
thing
did you
that
go to? Hold on. Just between you and I.
yeah, Cineplex here at the this one was Landmark. I went to Landmark for this one.
See, you should have went to the Cineplex and got the D-box, baby.
Yeah. But this one I was like IMAX 3D. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go like fucking, gonna see it all. But yeah, it was just funny because I do remember when going to the first Avatar and watching that, and that's what captivated me. It wasn't the story, it wasn't that, it was I felt I was immersed in Pandora. Like this one, it wasn't like that for me. I just felt that it was kind of just going to a regular 3D movie. Like story wise, same here. I went in like every episode before this when we discussed this movie. I had also lowered expectations. They surprised me with the story. Like it did captivate me a little bit. I do have a lot of questions, but my first one, I think this one, to me, it wasn't more of a technology base that kind of went with it. I think it's the fact that he's going a writer's room approach with these movies. It's like he's taking like the TV approach and putting it into film. Like I know I named off 3 people for screenplay, but there's like 5 or 6 people that actually have a story credit on this film. I just didn't want to do it on our fucking intro.
So to explain that, what you're saying is that collaborative approach where you, like you said, so a writer's room is where like you have a bunch of writers in a room and you just fucking have a whiteboard and you work out ideas and plot and stuff. That's what you're referring to, correct?
Correct. Which most TVs is like TV shows. That's how it's, unless you're, Stephen Moffat, like in the BBC that does it all. But yeah, it's interesting that, to me, I think that's kind of where films are going to go in the future. It's going to have like 10 writers, and then they're just going to one person's going to write the first arc, one person's going to write the second, one person's going to write the third, and now it's a consecutive like film series where they can now make 6 sequels and Cameron doesn't have to fucking worry about it.
So you felt less immersed in this story or in the film than you did in the first one?
I did.
Interesting. That's really interesting.
But also, like, in terms of like,
it's because you didn't have the D-box seats, buddy. That's it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. My kids did say, "Let's go D-box."
And listen, this is the reason, and this will make sense to anybody who's seen it, is because then it's almost like you're on a ride into what's it called? Narnia, Pandora, fucking whatever. No, the planet. The planet is called
Pandora, and okay. They're called the Navi.
That's it, the Navi, not Narnia. That's a different movie and book series. Sorry, C.S. Lewis. Because so you're like when you're flying across the water, when you're on the seats that move, you're even that gentle rocking back and forth and stuff. It makes you, it immerses you in the film. Like it's like being on a 3-hour Disney ride. Which I mean, I think Disney actually released it, so I guess that's a little bit of shout out to the parent corporation.
They have an Avatar ride in Disney World. But here's the thing. I know they're making 5 of these, but this is what I want. I want the prequel. I want the first like humans going to this planet, because I want to know in terms of, and this is a spoiler to the plot of this film. I just want to know who the first human that killed the big whale is and decided to suck out their brains to find out that is eternal youth. Like where that process came from. That's what I want to know.
So this is so okay. So I actually got super misty-eyed watching this movie because even though the animals are like fictitious, like they're not real animals and they're a computer generated not real animal, the emotion that James Cameron is able to give you between these creatures when they get killed in, you know, awful fact, whether they're shot or brain sucked out or whatever, it fucking sucks, man. Like I found those moments traumatic, like watching someone kick their dog or something. Like I was like, I don't want to watch this part. That's how well it was done. Like that to be able to create that kind of emotional connection with essentially like a computer image, I thought was a fucking such a testament to his writing and the quality because they're rendered so well. I mean, aren't they shooting at like, so normal film is like 24 frames per second. They're doing like 75 or 90 frames per second or something. So everything looks real. Like you stop feeling like you're in a computer generated film. Like you forget about that fact. It feels like the characters, the blue people and stuff like that are just, that's what they are. Like it is so well done in that manner that it allows you to just be in the film. That was my takeaway on it.
Yeah, like in terms of like, come on, give it credit. Sigourney Weaver is what? Like, how old is she?
Probably 60 something.
But she plays a fucking teenager very well. Like, it's believable.
Well, isn't she just voice acting?
No, it's all motion capture. They're all motion captured. So she was doing that fucking acting. She was doing.
Wait, so they didn't get like a. So I thought what they did is had a child, like a teenager or whatever. Actually, no, she was the youngest one. A child actor, and then her voice over top.
No, to my understanding, she did all the motion mocap too.
Oh wow, I thought she just did the mocap where she laid in the capsule.
No. Like you can tell that they're planting seeds for the sequel, right? So, you know, it keeps people captivated. And I think, well, now there won't be like how many years again was it between the two?
Sigourney Weaver is 73, according to our producer. Holy fuck.
Yeah. So there you go. So between Avatar, I was gonna say between Avatar 1, so 2009. Now there won't be that big of a gap between this one and the third one because I think
the third one comes out next year, I believe.
2024, yeah.
Well, we're in 2023, so that would be next year.
No, I get what you're saying, but I'm just saying 2024. Yeah, like now they're going like the Disney Star Wars route where they had like a Star Wars film every other year.
So on the topic of the sequel, okay, so there was all the conversation about, so the budget I have is 460 million for part 2, but because they shot part 3 and I think parts of part 4, it's got something like a $1.5 billion price tag, right, for all 3 of those or whatever, right? So that's where so there was that statement from James Cameron being like, it's got to be in the top 4 top grossing films of all time. So it's done $2 billion as of now, which puts it, I think, at number 6 for highest grossing, and it's still going. But that makes me wonder. Okay, so if their upfront costs other than marketing are already done, does that mean that like 3? Let's say they throw a $300 million marketing budget on it. Does that mean everything over $300 million is fucking white meat? Like it's pure profit? Because they've already done those upfront costs. So like part 3 could basically just bring in like, let's say it doesn't do the $2 billion, that's like $1.5 billion in profit.
Cha-ching, cha-ching, it's no contest. There's only one thing that I love the best.
But yeah, just the idea that like,
I was just like in my head calculating your numbers. I'm like, okay, so he's saying this. But yeah, no, I totally agree. Quite possibly. And I know he joked around after. And that's the thing that I love about Cameron, right? Like before this movie came out, it was like it's not to be watched at home. This is the movie to watch at streaming. Now
in theater.
Yeah,
not
yeah.
on screen.
Sorry. Yeah, this is the movie to watch in theaters, right? Like, and then, but now that it hits the 2 billion mark, he's like, yeah. If you want to watch it at home when it comes out on Disney Plus, that's fine. Like, you don't have to go to the theaters anymore because he knows he's already.
Gotcha, bitch.
And I mean, for Disney, if they then go have like a bazillion subscribers, even for a month to watch it on Disney Plus, it's the same money. It's still Disney money. And then they still go, hey, baby, you got us the mouse got more money because of you. So let's keep making your fucking movies.
Yeah, but does it, with those numbers, is it based off of the already subscribers who watch it or any new subscribers that they get?
Well, Disney will have all those metrics, right? Like they'll be able to tell, so Avatar 2 drops, how many people are watching it in general. They'll be able to see if there's this massive uptick. So you drop Avatar 2 and there's a massive uptick in subscribers, they're going to be able to correlate those things together, right? So any content that drives you to the platform, because again, you have to go, I think a minimum of a month. That's gravy. They've already, the upfront costs are done. Like it's all profit at this point for Disney. So they're doing really well. How far do you think it'll go? Like I said, it's at about 2 billion now. The original Avatar is the highest grossing film of all time, not calculated for inflation. Calculated for inflation, it's still Gone with the Wind. Something like calculated for inflation, Gone with the Wind is like 3 billion. Because like literally the entire United States watched that film multiple times in a theater. Interesting.
Yeah, but yeah, didn't it do like a tour or whatever, right?
Yeah.
In which it was like just
like a road show?
Yeah, it would play at this theater and then play at that next one. So I'm trying to see, and I think in reality, like this will probably be number one going into.
You think it's gonna surpass
February?
You think it's gonna number one in like ever?
No, like number one.
Oh, on the box office, yeah.
Box office up until February, I would guess. Like I think most likely that Ant-Man movie is the only one that's probably it has like that will take it out. And by the time that movie comes out, right, like everybody's already gonna be in their 5th fucking viewing of this film already, right?
Yeah, and the more people you can get. So this was my issue. I don't know if it's even an issue. Like I said, with the original Avatar, I watched it in the theater. I was impressed, and I never watched the movie again. What the fuck? This one, same thing. I have no desire to go watch it again. Do you know people that are watching it multiple times in the theater? Because I mean, when I was in high school when Titanic came out, and like my girlfriend at the time, I think she watched it like fucking 30 times in the theater. Like that's why those numbers went so high. People just kept going back and back and back and back. Do you think that people are going to go and watch it multiple times in the theater? Like, do you know people that have watched it multiple times in the theater?
I personally don't, but I can guarantee, yes, there are. Like, there's people that are all up for, the blue kitty cats. But and that's the thing. It's the same as Lord of the Rings, the same as Star Wars. It's a phenomenon that's really rare, like, because Cameron's one of them, Spielberg's the other, and Lucas, right? Like they have these franchises. Well, I guess you can say Peter Jackson with Lord of the Rings, where they have these franchises.
Except that Lord of the Rings is not his franchise. Like all the other ones are creators. Like they created their franchise.
Yes, but I'm just saying, like you nowadays, you really don't connect Tolkien to, in my opinion, you don't connect Tolkien to the movies. You connect Peter Jackson to the movies. No, like books are all Tolkien, but even like the TV show and stuff like that, like it's all like, oh, Jackson has to have a piece of it.
Sure. Okay. Right? I get you. So this film, so far, it's got BAFTA nods for sound and visual effects. It's got Critics' Choice nominations for picture, directing, cinematography, editing, production design, and visual effects. Those are the 2 big ones. I don't count the Golden Globes because they're fucking garbage and they're a pointless award. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the Oscar nominations. I honestly think that this should be in Best Picture running, because if you've listened to our Oscar show last year, I kind of laid out the things you need, in my opinion, to be objective about a Best Picture. It needs to have, a solid director and acting, screenplay, editing, like all of that, cinematography. It needs to have all those, which this definitely does. But then it usually needs to have one or both of two things. Grandiose. It needs to be a big film, or it needs to have emotional gravitas. I'm thinking like Parasite, right? Parasite's not a big film, but it's got like a hard-hitting emotional heart to it. I would say that this has both of those things. It's definitely big and it's definitely emotional. Like, so for this not to get best picture nods, and again, it should be one of the ones up for like really winning it. I don't even want to talk about the fucking Fablemans. This if that fucking movie was made by any other person, it would be direct to fucking video. Anyway, the only reason I don't think that James Cameron's Avatar 2 will get the love it deserves at the Oscars is because people are fucking assholes. Like, they just want to be like, man, Avatar 2, didn't watch it, didn't even bother to go see it, and they're gonna like fucking poo-poo it and be like, but Spielberg. It's like, listen, if I was fucking Steven Spielberg and I win the fucking Oscar for Best Picture for the Fablemans after doing stuff like Schindler's List, I'd feel like a fucking asshole. Anyway.
So what you're saying is you are the Academy. Because let's be honest right now. If this movie came out this year, in which it would be nominated for technically 2024, now it's up against fucking Nolan and Oppenheimer, you'd be like, fuck James Cameron and his little pussycats. Like, Nolan created his own nuclear explosion.
If this movie went up against different movies, you would have a different opinion. Yes, Scott, I would have a different opinion. It's all about the films that come out in that year. That's how there's a cutoff.
You're biased. You're biased for your directors, right? And that's the thing. The Academy is too. Like I said it before. Like, even like the last two fucking Oscar things we said, even before I even told you that Spielberg would get nominated for fucking West Side Story. It's just because it's Spielberg doing a musical that he's never done. He's gonna get nominated. I'm like, that movie can be a piece of shit, and he's gonna get nominated. What happened?
He got nominated.
And then that year, the next year, I said Spielberg's making a movie about his love of movies and how he became a director. What's gonna get fucking nominated?
Well, we'll see, but I think you're right. It's definitely gonna get. I can almost guarantee it's gonna get nominated. So
yeah, like I told you, there's no one more. Hollywood. There's nothing that loves itself more than Hollywood. So,
and Spielberg is like the definition of Hollywood.
Yeah, right. So, and a movie about like why films and theaters are so fucking important, and I haven't even watched it yet, so whatever. But I'm like, it's going to the thing, and it'll go over fucking Babylon, because Babylon, like, and I haven't even watched Babylon, but I'm like,
so good too, man.
But it's all about the access and like fucking orgies and shit. Like, it's the depiction of Hollywood no one wants anymore after Me Too.
Yes, yeah. They're like, we like all that stuff. We just can't admit that we like all that stuff.
Yeah.
What's Hollywood without orgies? You know what I mean? Like, it's not even Hollywood anymore. Do they even make movies in Hollywood? Well, listen, so the critics gave this a 77%. The audience gave it a 92%. I could see that. I mean, the critics have some of the, critiques I read. I was like, what are you expecting this movie to be? Like, yeah, are you expecting it to be fucking Schindler's List? Like, oh, it's not dramatic enough. I'm like, I fucking cried. Like, it's not.
This movie, but this movie, like, watching the movie and then going away with it and thinking about it after a couple of days, this movie was technically, Mel Gibson's The Patriot, except it's Blue Cats. The father who was a war veteran,
anti-imperialistic, anti-colonial.
Yeah, and then once the one son gets fucking spoilers knocked off, daddy goes crazy and starts getting machine guns and fucking.
Now it's fucking go time. So I'm gonna my quote's gonna lead into what I have to say after. So Brian Tellico from RobertEbert.com. This wildly entertaining film isn't a retread of Avatar, but a film in which fans can pick up thematic and even visual elements of Titanic, Aliens, The Abyss, and the Terminator films. And yeah, you're watching this movie, I would say more so than any of his other films. And you're like, this is a motherfucking James Cameron film. Because again, like I said, I just watched Aliens, and you're like, drop ships, same. Like all the like tech, same.
Funny, they had the Titanic fucking ship that goes up.
Yes.
Right. And this one too.
Yes.
I was
And
like,
so
Titanic.
one of the scenes that made me just think instantly of Aliens is so like the boat is sinking and the young girl gets like sucked into the like the water hole that's like dragging everything. And all I could think is her yelling, Ripley. And funny enough, it's fucking Ripley who Sigourney Weaver who's getting sucked into the hole.
No.
Isn't it the youngest daughter? Oh no, she's still sorry. You're right.
She's the teenager. She's the one that saves them.
That's right. But yeah, like so much of it, you can feel like Aliens and other James Cameron movies, like just in like on full display.
No.
The fights, by the way, the fight choreography in this film is mind blowing. Like those end fight scenes are fucking unreal.
Yeah, and I think like when it comes to awards time, I think this one is gonna sweep in terms of all the technical shit.
Oh yeah, I mean you would be a fucking asshole to give it to anybody else. Other than
well,
although I do think Top Gun 2 is gonna give it a run in certain categories like cinematography.
I think Top Gun's gonna be like, yeah, sound design and all that shit. But yeah, Everything Everywhere at Once too. I think those are going to be your front runners for.
I think Everything Everywhere at Once might actually win Best Picture.
Yeah, it's what I picked.
Yeah.
Well, I guess whenever we do the Oscar episode, it's what I picked.
Okay.
But yeah, like all in all, this film was entertaining. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. Yeah, if you want to get your butt vibrated, go do what Kris did and hit some D boxes. But yeah, like I think going in with lowered expectations made me enjoy it a lot more, right?
Yeah, have low expectations. Have standards, have them low, but have them new.
Yeah, like every woman who meets Kris on Tinder. And that is our wrap for the day. Please like and subscribe to this podcast. Tell your friends. If you want to get a hold of us, reach us at the www.howdyoulikethatmovie.com. They're like, so we got, the ore to power Elon Musk's Teslas and,
and
L'Oreal.
keep him young forever.
Yeah, and L'Oreal's new skin cream line. We're fucking this. I can't wait for the third one to find out what else in the fire.
Boners forever. That's what it is. Come on.
Oh, boner.
Boners forever. There's gonna be some fire tiger that when you eat its butthole, it gives you boners forever. So. Production by Rod Shaver, Vader Monkey Productions.